Hill Sabbath-Day Adventist Church is celebrating 100 years.
It is day 21.
Hello, everyone. Today we have here with us. Oh, what's your name? Just introduce yourself for the camera.
Oh, Glenn Phillips.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
You are the author of the book Over a Century of Adventism in Barbados.
That's right. Long time ago.
Yes, it is. Can you tell us what inspired you to write such a book?
Well, you know, I am a fourth generation Seventh-day Adventist.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing my doctorate at Howard University.
Mm-hmm.
And I was studying Caribbean history. Studying about slavery and
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of depressing things. And when Sabbath would come, my mind was still dealing with all of these issues. So I said, you know, I need to look into Adventist history.
Mm-hmm.
And to see what happened. And so I went to the General Conference, I went to the archives, and then I realized that there were some missionaries that wrote books about coming to the Caribbean as missionaries. And there was a certain doctor, a Barbadian doctor by the name of Charles Cave. And he dedicated over 30 years, to serving in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
And I look in these books and they only had like 2 sentences or a paragraph about him.
Wow.
And some of these missionaries came and spent 5 years and they had so much written about them, and I'm saying, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And I realized that the missionaries came and they wrote about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they wrote so much about themselves, they wrote the native people out of the history.
Wow.
So I figured you needed to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to research at the archives in Washington at the time. The General Conference at the time was in Washington. I went to the archives and I discovered a lot of things about Adventism, early Adventism. And if you hear the narrative about Adventism in the Caribbean, it sounds like missionaries just felt the need to come here. And they came and converted people, but that isn't so at all. The first people to bring Adventism to the Caribbean were actually Caribbean people themselves who had migrated to Canada and to the US.
Okay.
Got converted there and then they came back. And when these missionaries came, they ignored them and didn't write them into the story.
Right. Okay. Now you have some connections to Cave Hill.
Yeah.
Tell us about the connections to the church.
Well, my great-grandmother became an Adventist back in 1924. My great-grandmother's name is Christian Johnson Isley Boyce. She became an Adventist in 1924 in St. Lucie, here at Cave Hill. And it wasn't easy at the time, but she was a very outgoing person. She was actually a Pilgrim Holiness Wesleyan member. And when the missionary came down, his name was Pastor Minner, there was a lot of opposition, particularly from the priests at St. Clement's. In fact, he tried to stop the meetings and all kinds of stuff. It was a tough time, and this is why I thought I would write about it, and because I actually felt that I was part of the story. Yeah, and so there we go.
Yeah. How does it feel to know that Cave Hill is celebrating 100 years here on this property that your family donated?
Yeah, we are honored. You know, it is God that allowed this whole thing to unfold.
Yes.
It so happens that my family, my great-grandmother, was privileged to be born into a fairly well-to-do family. They came to St. Lucie back in the 18th century, and these were planters and so on. And even before slavery, the Isley family, for example, the family story is that the Isley family, before slavery was over, they freed their slaves and allowed their members to marry people of color. This is why we kept the name. And her father was Charles Isley, and he had a store down in Pike Corner. People came from all over to get stuff. So I felt I had that connection. And then I, as a boy would come here, I came to her funeral in 1946 as a 6-month-old baby. I don't remember that one, but I remember well, when I was a pre-teenager, I come in here and spending 6 months to get fat. and every Sabbath I would go over to the church and go to the Sabbath school and AOI and so on, and meet with the folk who came from all over and brought their food. Yeah. And then they would go back, when the sun set, we'd have worship and they'll go back. It was a lovely time. It's part of my memory. Yeah. Right. So I think I feel privileged, and then I had her name too, yeah. So I feel the connection.
What encouragement would you give to the members, especially the young people?
There are a number of things. Our church doesn't do well with history. They wait until almost the time that your church didn't do that. Wait almost to the time of the anniversary. Right. And then they have this celebration and they talk about it and then they forget and it goes on. Yeah. They have a kind of. We as Adventists need to realize how important history is. The servant of the Lord tells us that we need to know our history, how God has led us in the past, and how we should go forward. And it teaches us. I taught history at university for over 40 years. Wow. I taught in the school, Trinidad. I taught history and religion there. And then I also taught at Howard University, where I graduated. And I also taught at Morgan State for 37 years. And up to recently, people didn't like history. I would have a class with 60 people, and the first day I would walk in and say, "Let's see the hands of those who like history." And believe it or not, only about 6 people would put up their hands, and then I'd ask them, "Why you don't like history?" And they'd say, "You know why I don't like history? It is boring, and it's only about dates." And I'm saying, "What?" I say, "You kidding me?" I say, "History is so important. You need to be able to see what went on in the past to know how to go forward." Yeah. My question is, you ever saw a car without a rearview mirror?
No, please.
No, you need to have a rearview mirror. You need to see what happened behind there. But you can't get stuck on history. I want to say this too. History, folks, is not about the past. Okay. History is about the present and the future. Don't get stuck dealing with what happened in the past. You can't bring it back. And just talk about the golden years. What was golden about it? The good old days? There's no good old days. Come on. Those old people fool you. Yeah, you need to look forward. And so what you do is you see where you've come to. Right. From where you came, and you realize the potential for going forward. Yeah. But you also have to realize that as Adventists, we believe in the second coming. Yeah. And Jesus is coming soon. You can see all the signs that he's coming soon. And we want to do that. This is why I get involved in history, and this is why I like it so much.
I must confess, I was one of the persons who didn't like history. Yeah. But I will take your advice. Yeah. And going and becoming more involved in history. Yeah. Okay. So that wraps up our question for today.
Oh, great.
So I want to thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview with us.
Sure.
May God continue to bless you, and I hope to see you when the celebration commences.
Yeah, I hope to be here too. May God bless you. And thanks so much. I appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
Yeah, and good luck with everything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.